Welcome to the channel, Scott's Garage 86. Don't forget the HTX. Today I'm going to try to put a stiffer spring into the KTM rear shock. It's a 5.0 and I'm just going to start taking things off until I can get to the shock. The guy at the dealership said this was easy. I've heard that before, but we'll just get started. First thing I think I need to do is take off the seat. Second thing, maybe put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. I believe this would be next, quite honestly. And then slip off the muffler as well. Jumping ahead, I took a lot of the fairings off. I didn't want to bore you with it. It's just a matter of keeping track of everything. It's just taking bolts off and then sliding them out. It's not a big deal. Little Scott tip for you though, put the bolts back where you got them so you know where they go when you get back, because it ends up being a lot of bolts and you may not remember where everyone went. My hope is I've already taken off two of the bolts, lower bolts, when I took off some of the side fairings of the subframe, the rear subframe. And then there's two more. There's another one right here, which I've already taken off, and then one on the other side. Don't be surprised if these are stuck on there pretty good. This one may need a little bit more force. Oops. There we go. There. Now, hope is I can just move this out of the way just enough to get the shock out, which, you know, I think I will be able to. I'll have to push it off a little bit. We'll go from there. Maybe I'll move the camera around too so you can see it better. Okay, so what I'm doing is just moving the subframe all over so I can get to the bolts, or really, and I thought I was going to take this air box off, but I don't think I'm going to have to, which is good because I really don't know how it comes off. I think there's some bolts underneath all this wiring, and I don't want to do that. So just moving this off to the side and seeing where we go from there. I hope that's not on too much pressure. All right. I mean, the spring is loose. Let's see. I've been looking at this for a little bit, and this bolt here and this bolt here are under a lot of tension, and I was trying to figure out why, scientifically, or, you know, it's physics, right? It's physics, but it's not rocket science. And I went and looked at YouTube to see how other individuals did it, and I'm convinced that every single one I looked at was wrong. Way harder than it needs to be. And I got to thinking about this. And, you know, I was a physics major in college until I switched to business. And if I just raise up on the swing arm, I think, yeah, that should do it. Then it's a matter of, do I have enough room when I move this out of the way to get the shock out? That's, you know, the key. What do you know? That worked. I swear, I looked on YouTube and I saw people taking the rear tire off, taking the pivot out of the swing arm. I saw another guy do, I don't know what he was doing. He was taking this bolt off. And like I said, it's science and it's physics, but it's not rocket science. But maybe getting the spring off is. No, I don't think so. I think you just, next, I think we just back this off till the spring is very, very loose. And it's already, I mean, I can already spin it in its place. So I know it's not under too much tension. And really the only thing that looks to be holding on your spring at the bottom are these plastic sleeves around here. And if you look like they just come apart. You loosen up the spring enough to have a lot of slop in it, and then spread apart these two plastic, I have sleeves, holders, retainers, whatever, and the spring should come right out. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna try to set it up to where we can see it on the camera a little better. So I got a little better, cleaner area here where we can take this apart. My wife loves it when I take things apart on our kitchen island. You're so manly. No, not really. But it looks like all the thing we have to do is release this collar, which is a little tightening collar, then spin this, loosening it to this. We got a lot of play in the spring. So we need to loosen this up enough so we can get the spring all the way out in that collar up. Then these should fall apart. There we go. Voila. I'm gonna clean this up too. I got a lot of dirt in there as well, so we'll clean that up. Hi Lucy, how are you? You come say hi to me? Huh? Yes, I know. I'm ignoring you. I am so sorry. Did you bring me a present? You just brought me one of my own socks, actually. Yeah, good girl. All right, that's apart. Spring comes out. New spring goes in. Now we'll put this back together. Shouldn't be too hard. Let's put that metal retaining ring back in. The two plastic pieces to join back together. Come on now. There we go. Put the metal piece like so. Everything's back together. And now we can put that on there like that. Start tightening this down again. I don't know how much to tighten this down. I'm going to go finger tight as much as I can get it for right now. And then we'll worry about measuring the sag and seeing what we have to do as far as adjusting the spring rate, or spring tension. Now it's a matter of putting this back the way I found it, correct? One thing I would say as a Scott tip again is make sure this side of the lower shock bolt is threaded and it was on the left side. So when you put this back together, make sure that it is on the left side again so you can thread the bolt the way it came from this side. I don't know if it really matters, but that's the way it came and that's the way I'm going to put it back. Let's get the top bolt first. Okay, now the bottom. Yeah, that was a lot simpler than some of the things I saw on YouTube. I had people taking the rear tire off, the brake calipers off, this off, you name it, the bolts down this side off. I really don't know if I went wrong or they made it more difficult than it needed to be. And they were doing the 2023 KTM 300SX. I'm not sure. So, not to bash them, but I don't know why they had to do what they had to do. I'm going to put everything back together. I won't bore you with the details of all the shrouds. That's just, it's like a puzzle. You know how to do a puzzle. You'll be fine. I just want to make sure that that went together as easy as it was taking it apart, and just to complete the circle basically, so you didn't think that I skipped over something and there was some real big hard thing to do that I just got glazed right over. We'll be back. One other thing I'm going to do before I put all the cladding back on is clean and lubricate this chain. It's pretty bad, I've neglected it. And don't worry, hey Mom, I am going to use an old towel. See, already dirty, already greasy, not a clean towel. Wrap this around and clean this chain. Now that chain is very clean, even sounds better. I will add another Scott tip before I start putting stuff back together. I do not like putting things back together with impact wrenches. I like to feel through manual tools and ratchets whether or not I'm stripping the threads on a bolt or not. I might start threading it and make sure I'm comfortable with how it's threaded, and then I may put it together with an impact wrench. This impact wrench is pretty nice because it's not very large and it has many settings on it as far as how much torque you apply to it. That's just me, to each their own, but you know, nothing's worse than driving something in with an impact wrench and then realize you just stripped the heck out of something. And that's, when you take it out again, that's it. That's the last time it's going to go back in. Anyway, that's just me. Next thing I have to do is check the sag. We'll get to that as soon as we can. Let's test the static sag. And that is right at 35, which is a good sign.
It is 1 notch, actually 2 notches below that.
Well, as you could tell that the sag was still a little bit off when I had just finger tightened the spring onto the shock, and I wanted to fine tune it. I was able to do that with the hook wrench from KTM. I took off the lower portion of the fender and I was able to just get in there enough and click it at just a click at a time. Just took my time at it and was able to get inside there and actually adjust the shock. It's all dialed in. The static sag is at 35. The riding sag is at 105, and that's perfect. That's exactly what the manual calls for. I am convinced that this is the easiest way to get that shock out of this bike. Taking the body panels off this bike is incredibly easy, not a big deal. The only beef I'd have is I wish KTM would decide on what kind of bolt they want to use. Torx, Hex, Allen, you name it, they're all used. But not a big deal, it's just a puzzle, and you can put a puzzle back together, right? No big deal. I want to go out to the National Forest on this bike and do some trails, and it's closed basically because we've been getting so much rain. It's just about a mud slop out there. So eventually we'll get out there and get some footage out there on the National Forest and on some of the trails. I do have some footage that I took of me going to COTA at the MotoGP. So after I post this video, I'm going to try to get that edited and get that out there too. It was kind of interesting. It was hot that day, and I rode all the way out to COTA from Houston on my Ducati. So that was fun. It's also a bit sore too. I'm not used to being that cramped up in a bike for that long, about 2.5 hours. Anyway, you guys keep on keeping on. We'll catch you next time. Oh, hey, I will put the tools and the part numbers out there. This was a Racetech spring, and I'll put the part numbers of the SAG tool and this hook wrench out there in the comments section. You guys keep on keeping on. We'll catch you next time.